The camera cuts to a stunned Mike Tyson, eyes welling with emotion as he reads a handwritten letter from an African revolutionary. The room falls silent. The world watches. This isn't about boxing. This is about humanity. This is about legacy. And what Tyson says next will leave you speechless. If you believe in raw truth, redemption, and real-world heroes, hit that subscribe button now. You don't want to miss stories like this. Mike Tyson sat quietly in the green room of the morning show studio in Los Angeles, sipping a glass of water and staring at the wall with a heaviness in his chest he couldn't explain. Once feared as the baddest man on the planet, the former heavyweight champion of the world had seen both the heights of glory and the depths of despair, yet today felt different. Something in the air was unsettling. The producers had hinted at a surprise during the show, a letter from someone unexpected, but no one gave him details. Tyson didn't like surprises, not anymore. After decades of surviving the brutality of the ring and the even harsher punches of life outside it, Mike had grown cautious with his heart. The studio lights flooded his face as he walked on stage. The crowd cheered, and the host greeted him warmly. For the first 10 minutes, the tone remained light. They talked about Tyson's new ventures, his recovery journey, his podcast, and his legendary fights. Then, the host shifted, his voice growing solemn. "Mike," he said, holding a sealed envelope, "we have something here sent to us directly from West Africa, from a man named Captain Ibrahim Traoré. He said this letter is meant for you, and only you. He requested it be read live." Tyson leaned forward, his eyebrows pulling together in confusion. Ibrahim Traoré, the young revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso. Mike had read about him in passing headlines about resisting foreign influence, reclaiming national resources, and standing tall against global pressure. But why would a man like that write to him? As the host handed him the letter, a hush fell over the audience. Tyson's hands trembled slightly as he broke the seal. He cleared his throat, unfolded the paper, and began to read, silently. A few words in, he stopped. He took a deep breath, then read aloud, his voice cracking almost immediately. "Dear Mike Tyson, you don't know me, but I know you, not just the man who dominated the ring, but the boy from Brownsville who survived hell and rose to become a global figure. I write to you not as a fighter, but as a brother. In my country, we are fighting a different kind of war, not one with gloves or crowds, but one of identity, dignity, and sovereignty. And you, sir, have long been a symbol of resistance, of raw truth. I watched you speak once about pain, about how being hurt as a child shaped the monster you became. I cried that day. Because in my struggle, I too carry the wounds of boyhood. I lead a nation of people who have been told they are weak, incapable, inferior. And yet, like you, we rise again and again." Tyson paused, eyes blinking rapidly. "Your story," the letter continued, "is not just about boxing, it's about rebirth, about owning your mistakes and finding your soul in the ruins. That is the journey my people are on. I wanted to write to you, not for publicity, not for favor, but because men like you, flawed, forged by trauma, carry the voices of millions. I see in you a mirror of what we strive to be, unapologetically strong, deeply human, and ready to stand alone if need be. Keep walking, brother, your pain has not been in vain. From Burkina Faso to Brooklyn, we are with you. Sincerely, Captain Ibrahim Traoré." By the time he finished, Mike Tyson was no longer the Iron Warrior people remembered. He was a man, exposed, holding a simple piece of paper with trembling fingers and cheeks soaked in tears. The camera panned in close as he whispered, "I never thought someone like him would think of me like this." The audience was silent. The host, visibly moved, gently placed a hand on Tyson's shoulder. "Mike, are you okay?" he asked. Tyson wiped his face with his sleeve and nodded slowly. "You don't know what it means to hear this. All my life, I've been told I'm a beast, a criminal, a disgrace. I believed it. Even when I changed, when I tried to do better, the world didn't always let me forget. But this," he held up the letter, "this tells me maybe the pain had a purpose." That night, after the broadcast ended and the video began to go viral across social media, Tyson retreated to his home in the desert. He sat alone under the stars, rereading the letter over and over. He felt a strange peace. Ibrahim Traoré had reached into the most guarded corners of his soul and offered something no amount of fame ever did: recognition of his humanity. The following week, Tyson reached out to Traoré through his team. He wanted to speak directly. Arrangements were made. They would talk through a secure video call, bridging continents not just through technology, but through shared pain and purpose. As the call connected, Tyson saw the face of a young, stern leader, eyes sharp with focus, but soft with empathy. "Captain Traoré," Tyson said, nodding. "Brother Tyson," Traoré replied. The conversation that followed was not scripted, not political, but profoundly personal. Traoré spoke of his childhood in the Sahel, of French colonization, of watching elders toil without dignity. He spoke of choosing rebellion, of turning down offers of exile, and of living every day under threat because he refused to be anyone's puppet. Tyson listened, deeply. When it was his turn, he spoke of coups d'amato, of prison, of addiction, of betrayal. He spoke of losing himself in rage and finding himself in regret. "You know what I see when I look at you," Tyson said. "I see a man who refused to be broken by the world. You chose your people over comfort. That's something I never did when I had power." Traoré shook his head. "You fought a different war. Your survival gave hope to millions, even when you didn't know it. I want to honor that." In the weeks that followed, Tyson announced he would travel to Africa for the first time in decades, not for business or press, but to meet Traoré and see Burkina Faso with his own eyes. The world watched in anticipation. And as Tyson boarded a private plane, letter in hand, tears still not far from the surface, he whispered to himself, "I ain't just Iron Mike, I'm a man, and maybe I'm finally healing." The heat of Burkina Faso greeted Mike Tyson the moment he stepped off the plane. A dry, honest warmth, not the synthetic comfort of air-conditioned celebrity life, but the sun's raw embrace, real and unfiltered. Like everything that had led him here, the tarmac at Ouagadougou International Airport was lined with modest security, government officials, and curious citizens, many of whom held up their phones to capture the surreal moment. Tyson, dressed in a simple gray shirt and black trousers, didn't carry his usual bravado. There were no bodyguards flanking him, no designer entourage, just one former champion stepping into a place where history was being rewritten. At the airport gate stood Captain Ibrahim Traoré, dressed not in ceremonial garb, but in his typical military fatigues, symbolizing leadership through labor, not luxury. He walked up to Tyson, hand outstretched. "Brother," he said. Tyson gripped his hand firmly, holding his gaze. "Thank you for seeing me," he replied. The two men, one, a former world heavyweight champion, the other, a revolutionary African leader, stood there for a second, longer than expected. Two soldiers from different wars, bound by something far deeper than politics or fame. What followed was not a formal state visit, nor a media circus. It was quiet, intentional. Traoré took Tyson to meet with youth groups, ex-child soldiers, single mothers, and elders who remembered a pre-colonial dignity now long eroded. They toured mines, reclaimed from foreign corporations. They ate street food with locals and laughed with schoolchildren. Tyson, at times, was overwhelmed not just by the poverty, but by the power and pride of the people. "They remind me of my mother," he said softly one night. "She didn't have much, but she had fire." One particular encounter changed him forever. It was in a rural village outside Bobo-Dioulasso. An old man with weathered hands and cataract-clouded eyes walked up to him, placed a palm on Tyson's chest, and said through a translator, "In you, we see what they fear." A strong man who learned to cry, and still stood up. Tyson broke down again, silently, this time surrounded by strangers who somehow understood him better than most of the world ever had. That night, Tyson asked Traoré why he'd really written that letter. The captain sat under the stars beside him, his voice low. "Because I see in you the man I feared I'd become, brutalized, broken, lost in rage. But you found your way out. You used your fall to light someone else's rise. That's what I want for my people. To learn from our pain, not be imprisoned by it." Tyson nodded, silent for a long time. "You know," he began, "for years, I chased power, thinking it would heal me. But the most powerful I've ever felt is right here, sitting on this dirt, talking to you." The next day, the two men stood together at a youth conference in the capital. Tyson took the mic hesitantly, looked around the sea of faces, black-brown, young hopefully, and said, "I used to fight because I was angry. I hurt people because I was hurting. And people paid to see it. But that wasn't strength. That was pain, wearing a crown." The crowd listened, hanging on every word. "Then I lost everything. Money, fame, freedom. But losing those things showed me who I really was underneath, not a monster, just a boy who never learned how to cry. And today, I cry freely, because pain is real, but so is healing. And this country has shown me healing." The crowd erupted. That speech was shared globally, from classrooms in New York to universities in Accra. The world saw a new Mike Tyson, the fighter. Not the controversy, but a bridge between generations, between continents, between trauma and transformation. Back in the US, media spun the story in a dozen directions. Some labeled him a political pawn, others a reborn prophet. But Tyson didn't care. He wasn't doing it for headlines. He was doing it for the kid he used to be, the one nobody believed would survive, let alone inspire millions. Before leaving Burkina Faso, Tyson asked for one last favor. He wanted to visit a juvenile detention center. Inside, he sat on the floor with 15 boys. Some as young as 10, some already marked by gang scars and silent pain. He didn't preach, he told his story, raw, unfiltered. "You might think nobody cares," he said, "but I see you, I was you, and if I made it out, you can too." One boy reached for Tyson's hand, another just cried quietly. They'd never heard words like that from someone who looked like them, sounded like them, had bled like them. When Tyson finally left Africa, he wasn't the same. Back in America, he launched a new foundation in Traoré's name, the Traoré Tyson project for inner-city youth and African students seeking to bridge the gap between continents through education, storytelling, and healing. Tyson appeared on more shows, gave more speeches, not as a spectacle, but as a storyteller. He talked about how one man's words in a letter changed everything. We're all writing letters with our lives, he told a crowd at Columbia University. Make yours one someone can read when they're about to give up. Ibrahim Traoré, too, spoke of the visit often. Mike Tyson reminded my people that strength is not brutality, it's survival, it's transformation. And now, we walk with a little more dignity because we know we are not forgotten. Months later, during an interview on international TV, Tyson was asked what he thought his legacy would be. He paused, hands folded. I used to think it was knockouts, he said. Now, I think it's a letter. A man, a moment that showed the world I wasn't just iron, I was human, and I want every kid from Brooklyn to Burkina to know you can be strong and still have a heart. The audience gave a standing ovation. The interview ended, but the story continued. Because from the ashes of his past, from a quiet letter penned by a revolutionary across the sea, Mike Tyson had finally found what no championship belt ever gave him: peace, purpose, and the power to heal not just himself, but others. And as his foundation opened its first training and counseling center for young boys of color, Mike stood at the doorway, smiling, watching the future walk in. It started with a fight, he whispered, but this is what victory really looks like. From the streets of Brooklyn to the plains of Burkina Faso. This is more than just a story about a boxing legend. It's a reminder that healing is possible, redemption is real, and one letter can change a life. If Mike Tyson's journey moved you, leave a comment below. Tell us where you're watching from, USA or UK. Stand proud and let the world know that you believe in second chances, in unity, and in the power of shared humanity. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want more real stories that connect us all.